The narrative lectionary text for the fourth Sunday of Lent is John 18:28 through 19:16. I'm reading from the Common English Bible. The Jewish leaders led Jesus from Caiaphas to the Roman governor's palace. It was early in the morning. So that they could eat the Passover, the Jewish leaders wouldn't enter the palace. Entering the palace would have made them ritually unclean. So Pilate went out to them and asked, "What charge do you bring against this man?" They answered, "If he had done nothing wrong, we wouldn't have handed him over to you." Pilate responded, "Take him yourselves and judge him according to your law." The Jewish leaders replied, "The law doesn't allow us to kill anyone." This was so that Jesus' word might be fulfilled when he indicated how he was going to die. So Pilate went back into the palace. He summoned Jesus and asked, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And Jesus answered, "Do you say this on your own, or have others spoken to you about me?" Pilate responded, "I'm not a Jew, am I? Your nation and its chief priests handed you over to me. What have you done?" Jesus replied, "My kingdom doesn't originate from this world. If it did, my guards would fight so that I wouldn't have been arrested by the Jewish leaders. My kingdom isn't from here." "So you are a king," Pilate said. And Jesus answered, "You say that I'm a king. I was born and came into the world for this reason, to testify to the truth. Whoever accepts the truth listens to my voice." "What is truth?" Pilate asked. After Pilate said this, he returned to the Jewish leaders and said, "I find no grounds for any charge against him. You have a custom that I release one prisoner for you at Passover. Do you want me to release for you the King of the Jews?" They shouted, "Not this man. Give us Barabbas." In our U.S. justice system, represented by this recognizable landmark behind me, a trial is how we get to the truth. In a courtroom, evidence is presented and argued, witnesses are called to testify, questions are asked, and then a judge or a jury of one's own peers decides, based on the laws, whether a person is innocent or guilty. At his trial, Jesus stands before Pilate, having been brought to the Roman authorities by the religious leaders who claim that Jesus is a criminal. They demand that Pilate charge Jesus under civil laws so he may be sentenced to death by the state. The political and religious authorities are lining up against Jesus. But Jesus has his own source of power and authority, which comes from God. "My kingdom is not of this world," Jesus says in response to Pilate's questioning. Now, in my community, we generally prefer the language of kingdom rather than kingdom. We embrace the good news as a message of liberation and non-hierarchical social order. This kingdom of love and justice and equity is an alternative to the kingdoms of this world in which power is consolidated in the hands of a wealthy few and held over everyone else. So when Jesus speaks to Pilate of his kingdom, the Roman ruler responds, "So you are a king then," to which Jesus responds by speaking about the truth. You see, truth doesn't exclusively belong to those who have power. Truth belongs to those who maintain honesty, integrity, and courage, even in the face of corrupt power. Truth is speaking, even when your voice shakes. Truth is knowing that real power comes from God and not from the powers and principalities of this earthly realm. Truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, is what sets us apart and sets us free from the would-be kings who want to claim alternative facts. Those who stand on the side of truth are Christians listening to the voice of Jesus, calling us to live lives worthy of the deepest truths of our faith, to side with the vulnerable over the powerful, to call for the liberation of the oppressed from those who benefit from exploitive systems, to create communities of care and compassion that center the most marginalized in our society. This is where our power and authority comes from. Our kingdom is not of this world, but it is created through faithful, sacrificial, and just action within this earthly realm. As my New Testament professor, Gail O'Day, writes, Pilate attempts to exercise his power and authority over Jesus, but instead Pilate's power and authority diminish as the trial unfolds. He has all the accoutrements of power and office. Note the soldiers at his disposal, with the legal authority to take away life. But he nonetheless stands powerless in the face of true power, authority, and life. Jesus testifies to the truth, and the powers of this world are exposed as empty. Pilate is just a man, like so many others in this gospel to whom Jesus speaks the truth about himself and God. Pilate is given the opportunity to make his decision about Jesus, not his legal decision, but his theological one. By speaking the truth to Pilate, Jesus puts Pilate on trial, asking him to decide whether he will receive Jesus' word, whether he will identify himself with those who have the love of God in them, or whether he will return his back on God. May we have the courage to speak the truth, especially when we are speaking to unjust powers and systems and their representatives in this world. May we lean into Jesus's truth that love is stronger than hate, that justice, true justice, and God's justice may ultimately prevail.